Hi, I'm Professor Beck Strah.
And I'm producer Brit, and you're listening to Prison Breakdown.
2, 3, break!
Hate to spoil his fun, but we're gonna bust out of here.
2, 3, break!
I'm locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
2, 3, break!
I can honestly say I'm a changed man. No danger to society here. God's honest truth.
2, 3, break!
I'm not leaving this cell. I'll get out my way. The right way.
2, 3, break!
Ahoy, dudes! And welcome back to another episode of Prison Breakdown. I am your co-host, Professor Beck Strah. I'm a professor of criminal justice and former corrections officer, joined today by my co-host.
Hi, I'm producer Brit. You probably know me from producing the show. I do a little thing called a movie minute on here. And yeah.
So we finally get an Eric-free episode. It's like our chains have been lifted.
When the cat's away, the mice will play.
And today, play we will.
Oh,
first, tell us about the weather. No, I'm kidding, because nobody cares about that.
The weather's actually pretty great here. I'm still going to institute. I'm taking over all of his segments, including talking about the weather. It's the humidity really dropped here, and although it gets up into the 80s still, it's really not such a bad, not such a hot 80. And I'm only talking from perspective of working in a postal van most of the week. There's weather, and then there's weather in the van, which is a different thing.
So let me ask you about these postal vans. First off,
sure.
Have you ever caught anyone trying to hide in a package?
No.
Trying to mail themselves somewhere?
No.
How do we stop that as a nation?
That's a good question. I feel like there's better ways to do it, hide in someone's luggage or something like that. But I don't think anyone really mails themselves. Yeah,
I think it'd be a fun stunt. If you want to go viral, maybe mail yourself somewhere. Not you. For context for the listener, producer Brit is a proud employee of our United States Postal Service.
Yeah, a male goth. I wear the fishnet gloves to work because they don't have regulations on gloves for some reason.
There we go. You can assert your individuality through a glove.
I do. I do very much so.
Hey, remember G-Love and the special sauce? Do you think G-Love was just a way of articulating the word glove?
All right, we're off the rails. Let's talk about the weather again. I
won't answer. Our listeners demand answers.
I don't think I should dignify that with an answer.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. By the way, did you know that our podcast is brought to you by Roger Williams University School of Justice Studies?
I did. And guess what? They have programs for all of our justice needs. They have criminal justice. They have legal studies. They have cybersecurity. They have public administration.
Yeah.
They have, oh God, I'm forgetting one in here.
I think
there's a minor in military studies. What am I forgetting?
They got leadership.
Leadership. I forgot leadership. Leadership, we thank you for your service.
Yeah. But, Roger Williams University in beautiful, where is it, Rhode Island?
It's in Bristol, Rhode Island.
Bristol,
it was
okay. Yeah.
You were really good at setting up leadership.
Yeah, I was like, oh, well, they have a campus in Providence, but I'm like, wait a second, but it's not in Providence, Rhode Island.
But we do have our University College campus in Providence, Rhode Island for continuing learners.
Continuing learners. It's always good to continue learning.
Yes, I completely agree. I read all the time. Why? Because I'm trying to continue my learning.
That's always a great thing to do. Always great.
So, Roger Williams School of Justice Studies, we thank you.
Yeah, thanks for helping to produce this podcast and paying me to do so. Otherwise, I don't think it would get done.
Probably not. Eric and I do not have those skills. And as you may have inferred, today is an Eric-free episode. Good riddance, and we hope you make a quick recovery.
Yeah,
we do miss you.
Yeah, Eric is out on medical leave, so we're going to try to hold it together. See if Eric is in fact the glue or the meat of the sandwich. Are we just bread? Are we men or are we bread? That is what I ask of you. I think.
Are we the breads and Eric is the meat to this Sloppy Joe of a podcast? I would like that to be on our banner.
Yeah, the Sloppy Joe of prison podcasts. Yeah.
It does seem like a prison food. I don't think I've ever seen it served in prison, but I tell you what, Sloppy Joe.
It does seem like it. It's like, oh yeah, we got a bunch of this these meat cuts given to us, so we're just gonna grind them up and make a bunch of Sloppy Joes for the guys.
Hey, you're a person who likes to cook. Can you make a Sloppy Joe out of like any meat?
Yeah, basically any ground meat. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, you can do it with chicken. You can do it with turkey. You can do it with lamb. You can do it. I'm sure you could do it with fish. You could probably make a fish Sloppy Joe. I don't know if that'd be great, but
no, certainly not.
I mean, you could do one with like salmon paste, and that might be almost like a barbecue salmon patty or something. It might be pretty good. I don't know.
Hey, to our listenership, if you're out there and you want to try this challenge of making a fish Sloppy Joe, get in touch and mail it to us. We'll give you the address.
Yeah, mail it through USPS. I might deliver it.
Yeah, mail it through USPS, and producer Brit will take a bite.
Yeah.
As he does all of his mail.
That's, the mailman's got to take a bite. That's a job perk.
This is going off the rails again. I think Eric adds structure.
Does he? The structure like, hey, I think it might be time for some news from the razor wire.
Fresh news, hot off the razor wire.
So this is some fresh news. This just happened. So a federal judge has ordered a 100-year-old Illinois prison depopulated because of its bullshit conditions.
Oh, hang on. Give me, what prison is this?
So it is the Illinois Department. It is the Stateville Correctional Center. Have you heard of this?
I have. I believe there was a notable riot there at some point in history.
Okay. So
I'll do a future episode on Stateville.
Yeah. So Illinois must move most of its inmates at its 100-year-old prison within less than 2 months because of decrepit conditions, a federal judge has ruled. The Illinois Department of Corrections said that the U.S. District Judge Andrea R.W. Wood's order issued Friday to depopulate Stateville Correctional Center is in line with its plan to replace the facility. The department plans to rebuild it on the same campus in Crest Hill, which is 41 miles southwest of Chicago. The plan includes replacing the deteriorating Logan Prison for women in the central Illinois city of Lincoln. The state might rebuild Logan on the Stateville campus as well. Wood's decree states that the prison, which houses over 400 people, would need to close by September 30th of this year, due in part to falling concrete from deteriorating walls and ceilings.
Jesus.
Which doesn't sound very safe to me. Falling concrete in a concrete building sounds like that building's falling apart entirely.
When I hear deteriorating conditions, I'm like, I want to know more. But that tells me that it is in dire need of repair. So are there lawsuits at this point? Is what spurned this? Do you know?
The judge said costly repairs would be necessary to make the prison habitable. So just costly repairs, basically. It's just a money thing. Just like we talked about with the reason they said they closed Alcatraz. Just that $5 million. Too expensive to upkeep. So the decision came as the result of a civil rights lawsuit arguing that Stateville, which opened in 1925, is too hazardous to house anyone. So I guess that, yeah. The plaintiffs said surfaces are covered with bird feathers and bird shit, and faucets dispense foul-smelling water. Foul-smelling water.
So something I think about not infrequently, you and I both enjoy an abandoned YouTube video where somebody's going through an abandoned restaurant or an abandoned mall or an abandoned stadium. And I love hearing about like the history and how did it get abandoned in the first place. But these giant structures, they are so quick to deteriorate once they are abandoned. That is something that always just shocks me. Right. How quickly something goes downhill when it is just left to the elements.
Yeah.
And even doing regular upkeep to a facility is not going to stop falling concrete if it wasn't built well in the first place.
Right. And they say about like structures that are made over their lifetime, approximately 2/3 of the structure is entirely on maintenance and upkeep for the structure, which is crazy to think about. You know, you build a $1 million house and the thing over its lifetime is going to cost $3 million. $3
million. And most of that is going to be upkeep. Yeah.
Yeah. Upkeep and improvements and stuff like that. Yeah. It is.
And that doesn't count like a paint job or replacing a light or something like that, does it?
I think that counts. Yeah. It's all in the same big money pool of maintenance and upkeep.
I wonder, so we built so many prisons in like the 1980s and 1990s. It will be interesting, not for us to see probably, because we will likely be dead like when those hit 100 years old, but we're going to have all these institutions built around the same time that are deteriorating if they're still in use.
Yeah, it's like a baby boom, but for prisons, for the prison state.
Yeah, well, they call it the prison construction boom of that era. And in Texas, I want to say they built like prisons increased by like 500 times greater than what they had up to that point in time. Yeah, the system of mass incarceration came on so fast from the 1970s to the early 2000s that it wasn't accounted for. And then the prison industrial complex takes over and it takes the life out of its own. So that's I'm glad that they're closing the prison.
Yeah, I mean that's a good thing, but like the question is like, you know, do they have enough facilities to house all these people, and how is that going to affect the lives of the people who are already used? You know, maybe some people moved to a certain area in order to be closer to their family in the prison.
True.
And like, how's that going to affect them? How's that going to affect like the local community that like a lot of maybe local workers, you know, survive on that prison and now they have to like move elsewhere, and what's going to happen to that community now?
Great point. Yeah. Well, you said it's at the prison itself. They're building a replacement facility. What was it, like 45 miles away?
Yeah, like so, and it didn't say how close it was. It says on the same campus. Oh, in Crest Hill. So it's on the same campus. So
okay, never mind.
But how long is that going to take, and how long are people going to be out of a job, and they're going to have to move like an entirely new workforce in probably. You know.
One thing I can say too is with the strength of corrections officer unions, it is once you are there and you are in the union and you are off of probation, it is hard to like fire a lot of people, and unless you are caught doing something like very improper. Now, to that end, I'm sure that they will find other places for them to work within the Department of Corrections system. And if it is on a correctional complex area, I'm sure they could shuffle them into the other correctional officer pools at the other prisons or jails on the same complex.
So yeah, it says that employees of the lockups will be dispersed to other facilities until the new prisons open, which is kind of an indefinite date though.
And it is still very disruptive to their lives and livelihoods.
In as much their union wants the prisons to stay open while the replacements are built, but that also endangers the prisoners. So it's like you have a lot of competing interests here just because they didn't upkeep on regular maintenance and like, you know, make sure that they didn't have 100-year-old building that they didn't already think of a replacement for that's falling apart in front of them.
Yeah. So this goes to, what about decarceration as an option? Can we let out some people? Can we be discriminating and use this idea of selective incapacitation? Let's only lock up the people that could be a direct threat to the community. And other people get to get a get out of jail free card, literally.
Right. But at that point also, when you have that, you have smaller prison populations, you need less of these employees. And then what are you going to do with this excess workforce?
Exactly. So it's like being forced to make politically unpopular decisions no matter what. So whoever is in charge of this, say the commissioner of the Department of Corrections or Governor Pritzker, your back's against the wall. There is no one right decision, and you are going to make someone unhappy in the decision no matter what.
Absolutely. Can't make everyone happy. That's politics, baby.
Yes. So that's what's happening in the news today. Thanks for bringing it to us, just like Eric would.
Absolutely. Just reading it off the internet, just like Eric would.
Exactly. You even copied his tone of reading the words directly from the internet article. It was pitch perfect.
You're welcome. That was news from the razor wire, baby.
Eric, we hope you're listening, baby.
So I guess that brings us to the main event. What are we talking about today?
Today, we are discussing escapes from Alcatraz, but more specifically, the Battle of Alcatraz.
Ooh, the Battle of Alcatraz. That sounds epic.
Let me give you some dirt on Alcatraz. Over time, we had 36 escape attempts from Alcatraz. 36 people tried to escape. 23 of them were captured alive. 6 people were shot and killed by corrections officers, and 2 drowned. 5 of them escaped and were listed as missing and presumed drowned. And there was actually one very successful escape attempt, kind of. It happened in 1962. A man named John Paul Scott. He escaped from the prison and he swam all the way to the shore, only to be quickly captured by authorities when 4 teenagers found him unconscious and hypothermic, laying underneath the Golden Gate Bridge.
Those 4 teenagers were narcs.
They are narcs.
Right?
Yeah.
You take them to a hospital.
You almost earned it.
Yeah, you take them to a hospital. You don't call the cops. Come on, kids.
Yeah, I mean, I assume he was probably wearing whatever the uniform looked like for Alcatraz inmates.
Right.
So that's probably a giveaway. But if you find somebody laying under a bridge, otherwise, take them to the hospital first.
No, get them a new change of clothes, and then take them to the hospital. There you go. And then you got a cool souvenir. You got a cool Alcatraz outfit now.
Oh, that's right. You can wear that on Halloween every year. I would think that's cool.
Yeah.
So as we know, between Alcatraz Island and the city of San Francisco, there are these crazy strong currents. It is really cold out there. It's roughly 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit in the water, which is very cold for water. Now, these are just the escapees. Notably, there are people who have made the swim and lived to tell the tale. In the early 1900s, before Alcatraz even opened as a federal institution, there was a teenage girl who made the swim just to prove that this is a possibility. Imagine having that kind of will to do something hard like that just to prove it's possible. I don't have that in me.
Yeah, I don't have the will of that teenage girl. I probably don't have the will of most teenage girls, to be honest.
Just to prove, hey, this can be done, even though it is going to be dangerous and I might die. I don't have that. And as we've talked about, in 1974, the fitness specialist Jack LaLanne, he swam out to Alcatraz Island pulling a rowboat at age 60 just to show he could do it
with his teeth while handcuffed.
Yeah, that man is insane. That is the weirdest thing that you can do, and I'm proud of him. He earned a real round of applause.
Great American hero.
Breakdown podcast.
Great American hero.
And there's also on record 2 10-year-old kids have made the swim as well. So So we know that Jack LaLanne and kids can do it, but anyone in between cannot. That's what history has proved over and over again. Now, this takes us up to a very famous escape attempt, perhaps the most famous escape attempt. We're getting back to our roots here on Prison Breakdown, where we have Prison Break in the name.
Ooh,
and the Battle of Alcatraz is one of these such events. Now, let me put it to you, Producer Brit. What do you like about hearing about a prison break?
I like action. I like hear about the planning process and especially how they covered it up. It's the whole thing. It's a series of systems that are all interconnected that ensure like a successful prison break, and like everything has to go right. And there's like suspense in every single element because of that. So I like to hear about every single element of a prison break.
Absolutely. It has one of those things that just captures the American attention, where like a bank robbery that's successful, where we want to hear about it. It's not necessarily a good thing in any way, and people are often harmed or even lose their lives in the process, but it is going to be interesting to hear about.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Now, the Battle of Alcatraz started with an attempted escape, and then it turned into a violent attempted escape and takeover of the prison. Now, there were 6 people involved. Let's go through and meet each of them, shall we?
We shall.
We're starting with Joe Kretzer. He is a member of the Kretzer-Kyle gang. They were a gang focused on bank robberies up and down the West Coast. He was doing time in Alcatraz for murder. He had also escaped the original prison he was held in, and as we know, Alcatraz held the worst of the worst, as the mantra goes. And so they said, you think you can escape this prison? Go to Alcatraz. And the dude had already tried to bust out of Alcatraz in 1941, but that landed him in the D block of Alcatraz, which was the high security unit. And he stayed there for 5 years. So that's our guy, Joe Kretzer. Moving on, we've got Marvin Hubbard. He was serving time for grand theft auto in an Alabama jail, and he and 2 other inmates escaped from the jail. And in the process, they injured a corrections officer, they stole machine guns and pistols from the facility, and they fled to Georgia. During their flight, they kidnapped a farmer, they shot at the cops, and he was being held on this charge in Nashville, Tennessee. And then he escaped from that facility and was recaptured. And authorities are like tired of this. They're like, we're tired of chasing you. So his repeated escape attempts, his repeated crossing state lines lands him in federal custody on the Rock. Yeah. Otherwise known as Alcatraz.
Another fun fact about Hubbard, he had an old mother of cupboard fame.
Tell me more about her. She had a dog.
She went to get her old dog a bone. I only remember the Andrew Dice Clay version, unfortunately.
Please don't repeat that. We're not that kind of podcast.
We're canceled. Oh,
I would like a drop for Andrew Dice Clay going, to punctuate anything and everything.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Next, we got Sam Shockley. That's a great name. He should have been a shock jock. He would have had a better career than a guy in Alcatraz.
Did they have shock jocks in the 1950s and 60s?
He was the first, I think. He was an athlete, and his name is Sam Shockley.
Okay.
I don't know that he was an athlete, but he did start out as a minor offender, stealing chickens and tires. He got caught, and he went to prison, where the dude experienced some serious head trauma, getting beatings from other inmates. And so he was in and out of custody for a while. But his major crime was he carjacked a guy, he robbed a bank, and he kidnapped 2 of the bank employees. All of these are a big no-no, as they say, and landed him in Alcatraz, where it was believed, okay, this guy needs discipline in his life, and the routine is going to get him on the straight and narrow. Sam Shockley displayed some serious mental illness, some symptoms of schizophrenia. He was also described as very emotionally unstable. He had an IQ of around 54 and a mental age of 8.
Oh, so he was mentally disabled, like fully.
Yes.
Like he should not have been in like a regular prison, like at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. No. This guy should have been in like a home or a rehabilitation center or something after that kind of head trauma.
Yeah.
Like,
Christ.
There are like regulations against giving the death penalty to a person this mentally disabled, but as far as I know, nothing against incarcerating somebody like this.
That's absolutely wild.
In this condition.
Like, I mean, because you're asking too much of both them to put them in a place where they're expected to behave like other people and follow the rules that other people have, but you're asking way too much of also correctional officers and asking them to, you know, do a job they're not qualified for and they haven't done before. Like having done that job, you know, like help run group homes and stuff, like it's a difficult job, and it's like, you know, I'm sure a lot of correctional officers could do it, but I'm sure a lot of them just don't have the temperament to do it. Because it's, you know, it's a whole different beast dealing with someone who communicates in an entirely different way because of disabilities, you know?
Yeah, absolutely agree. And if someone has a mental age of 8 and an IQ of around 54, it's very possible they don't quite understand like the consequences of their actions.
Right.
And thus prison is maybe not the best place to try and teach them a lesson.
No, definitely not. That's putting them in a big weird timeout, and that's not good. That's
how I described prison in the first place. It is kind of a big weird timeout.
Yeah, man, I'm going to the big weird timeout. I did a no, as they call it.
Yeah, like we've known for like 200 years, more than 200 years, that the prisons don't really work, but we continue to use them because we're so uncreative with punishment, and people push away innovation, and we take prisons so much for granted that we can't seem to get away from this paradigm. And there are some promising ideas like transformative justice, right? But they're not widely implemented enough to be a default punishment like prison.
Right.
Anyway, I digress. Let's get back on the straight and narrow like these guys.
Absolutely.
Our next gentleman is Miran Thompson. He is in Alcatraz doing a sentence of 99 years plus life for the murder of a police officer in Texas. He also pulled off some armed robberies. He had been held in small jails on 8 occasions after getting caught, and he escaped each time from those small jails. 8 escapes. It's pretty impressive.
Wow, very impressive.
And so, like these other guys who had escaped and you're not going anywhere, they finally transfer him to Alcatraz. It's kind of this last resort. Our next guy has the best nickname. His name is Clarence Carnes, also known as the Choctaw Kid.
Ooh, that's a pretty good name.
I would love a nickname like that.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. He held the distinction of being the youngest inmate at Alcatraz. He was found to have a psychopathic personality, and he was emotionally unstable. He was convicted at age 16 and serving a 99-year sentence for kidnapping and a life sentence for murder. He had killed a garage attendant in an attempted robbery in 1943. He was imprisoned in Oklahoma for a few years, and he escaped in 1945. At that point, he gets recaptured. He's brought to Leavenworth Prison in Kansas. He tries to escape from U.S. Marshals who are transporting him there, and they said, you're going to Alcatraz instead, buddy. Throwing away the key. Our last escapee, we've got Bernard Coy. He was the planner behind the escape. He's the brains. Mr. Coy was doing 25 years for a bank robbery. And at the time of his escape attempt, he was a cell house orderly, meaning he's a worker in the prison, giving him some freedom to move up and around the units. So during his job, he's coming up with a plan. He's closely watching the corrections officers. He's looking for flaws in the security layout. He's looking for when are corrections officers watching certain areas? When are they not? He's following their routines, which is a key element in any decent escape plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you were trying to escape,
Yeah.
what's your first step?
My first step is obviously looking for weaknesses in the structure, right? And if I can't find any weaknesses in the structure, then I look for weaknesses in the systems, and I look for weaknesses in individuals, things I can exploit, you know? It's always about looking for what you can exploit in order to get out, right?
I know a lot of people look for weaknesses in prisons, and as you would have done, he does look for weaknesses. He looks to the armory where they keep the guns specifically, and he notices, hey, look at that. All the guns are behind bars. There's no extra protection. It's just guns behind bars. And so Bernard Coy starts losing weight so he can fit through those bars to get to the guns.
Oh, madman. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
If only he'd had David Blaine, who we've seen bend bars in front of inmates.
True.
Yeah. He wouldn't have had to lose all that weight. He could have gotten yoked, which would be tight. Now, let's put it all together. On the afternoon of May 2nd, 1946, Hubbard, the first gentleman the second gentleman we talked about with the mother, he distracts one of the officers named Bill Miller, and Bernard Coy attacks him from behind. And the two beat this corrections officer unconscious. They take his keys, and then they pop Carnes, Thompson, and Kretzer out of their cells. Bernard Coy then covers himself in axle grease, and he uses pliers and pipes to spread the bars of the armory wide enough for him to slip through and access the guns.
Mm-hmm.
They find the corrections officer in charge of watching the armory, and they strangle him with his necktie until he goes unconscious. And then they raid the armory, and they grab weapons and ammo before moving over to D Block for the next stage of their plan. So these guys are armed now. They have some leverage.
And they haven't killed anyone yet, have they?
They have not.
Surprising. Okay.
It is surprising. Yeah. Like an escape attempt is much more, I feel better about it if nobody dies, obviously, right?
Right.
If there's no loss of life,
right.
We can all feel a little better. Sleep a little easier.
It's a lot more exciting. It's a lot more like, well, you had to try, kind of. Whereas if you kill someone, you're like, that's a no-no. You can't do that.
And this is not to endorse prison escapes, but it makes me, it's more of a, all right, cool story if they escaped and got caught.
Yeah.
The loss of life makes everyone feel bad.
Absolutely.
Now, Bernard Coy, he runs over to D Block, the high security area. He's waving a pistol around, and he forces a corrections officer to release more prisoners. Now, remember, in modern day prisons, we don't have pistols. We don't have any kind of firearms in the prisons at all. And tell me why not?
Because it's a terrible idea. Because if you have them in prisons, prisoners are going to try to get them.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And if somebody gets them, everyone is fucked. Like there is no, like hostage situations would potentially be more commonplace. People who have less to lose, say I'm looking at a long sentence or even like a death sentence, forget it. You go for that gun.
Yeah. Like what's the worst that can happen? What, they're going to sentence you to double death? That's not going to
double death. They're going to resuscitate me just so they can kill me again.
Right. They're like, we give you lethal injection and the electric chair.
At the same time. Coy runs over and forces a corrections officer to release these prisoners. And here is where our guy Sam Shockley joins the group. So when the CO releases these other inmates, Shockley is the only one who joins the group. The other inmates just return to their cells. They know this isn't going to go anywhere. They want no part of it. If somebody's making an escape attempt and you see that this is a futile gesture, you look around and you go, oh, yeah, this is just going to get me in more trouble. No, thank you. I'm out. But the group, they round up 9 corrections officers. They hold them as hostage and they put them in the D block cells. But their plan really starts to come up short when they realize they can't get out to the recreation yard, which they need to get out to take the next steps in their escape. They don't have the key.
Oh, no.
Because one of the corrections officers was thinking ahead, and hid the key in a cell. So the escapees decide to fight. And Shockley, Thompson, and Carnes all eventually give up. They say, we don't want to fight anymore. We're just going to return to our cells. And Kretzer doesn't want to give up the fight. And he starts shooting into the cells. And in the process, fatally wounding corrections officer Miller, the guy they had initially beaten unconscious.
Oh, no.
Yeah, right. I know. This is where it
bad
takes a
day
downturn
for that guy.
Another officer named Harold Stites gets shot and killed trying to rescue his colleagues and take back control of the cell block. This guy's the hero. He's the guy doing the right thing, and he gets killed for it. And 13 officers in total are injured during the escape attempt. And eventually, the rest of the prison catches on. You're hearing gunfire and yelling from certain areas. You assume something's going bad. And so the rest of the prison catches on. They call out for support from the Marines. And we have a group of military, police, and corrections officers all trying to get into the cell block. And they start lobbing grenades into the cell block. How do you think that goes?
Grenades in a prison in like 6 by 8 cells. Not good. Shrapnel everywhere. Lots of people injured.
Yeah, indeed. So it didn't go great, especially for the guys trying to escape. So there's a siege lasting 48 hours, and it ends. So this started on May 2nd, and it ends on Star Wars Day in honor of Star Wars coming out in the future, May 4th.
Oh, wow. That was very wise of them.
Yes, it was. Much like Obi-Wan Kenobi from the Star Wars series.
Very much so. Or I was thinking Yoda, but yes. Master Yoda.
I should have said Yoda.
Yeah.
So in the process, the guys still trying to escape, Coy, Kretzer, and Hubbard, they are killed. Their bodies are found inside the cell block, loaded with bullets and shrapnel. The other guys, Shockley, Thompson, and Carnes, they end up going to trial for the death of the 2 officers. Carnes, he gets another 99 years added to his sentence. The other boys, Shockley and Thompson, Shockley being the disabled young man, they get the gas chamber in San Quentin 2 years later as punishment for their crimes.
Oh, no.
That brings an end to our sad tale of the Battle of Alcatraz.
That was terrible. That's awful, man. So they just killed that poor mentally disabled man.
Yeah, they did.
Who got beaten into mental disability. Wild.
Yeah, for people, I believe it's like if your IQ is under like 60, you're not supposed to be able to take the stand even anymore because you are because persons with very low IQ and mental age are more they're more trying to like please whoever's questioning them,
right?
And so it's very sad that this guy, he might have just been going along with it because he goes, yeah, sure, like count me in, because he's trying to please people around him and gets killed in the process.
Right. It's like, yeah,
trying to be agreeable.
We'll use like a mental age to like denigrate a person in society, but not to like hold them in legal standing as a person of that age. It's how they should be. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Like we treat them like, oh, you should be responsible for this, but then don't hold ourselves to the same standard.
Yeah, but you can't be responsible for like a job or to drive a car or like a whole bunch of other things that they're not going to allow them to do. So,
yeah, it's whack all the way up and down. So that is the end of our sad tale, but the most interesting of all the Alcatraz escape attempts, besides the one discussed last time with Creepy.
Yeah. So that I don't know. Honestly, that I'm going to give that one like 2 soups. Not a very well planned out. Like they didn't think about the key to get outside. Like a guard foiled them by just hiding a key.
Yeah. They really should have done the whole,
the guy,
we took the key in advance and made like a soap copy of the key.
The guy fasted for like months in order to get through the bars to get the guns, but didn't think about a key. Like, come on. Like, I don't know, not very well planned. The mastermind was not such a master.
No, the other guys, like,
was it
they
Coy,
at least like sawed through the bars of their cells. Like that is a smarter escape.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know.
Now let me ask you, did you ever see the show Prison Break?
I never did, actually. Never really got into that. I know you were really into it back in the day.
Yeah, the first season really captured me with a young man has his brother wrongfully convicted and on death row. Mm-hmm. So he tattoos, he's an architect, and he tattoos the prison plan over his entire body. And he's going to use that to make an escape from the prison. We should do a future episode on the first season of Prison Break. It would take a lot of research, but
yeah, it would take a lot of time. I don't know. I consider it. It's supposed to be a good show. At least the first season.
The first season is great. Yeah. It's very stupid, but it's great.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
So that is the main event for today. Let's move on to our favorite segment.
Movie Minute.
The Movie Minute.
Let's get into it.
Movie Minute. Movie Minute. 60 seconds with producer Brit to talk about movies.
60 seconds on the clock, please.
Tick, 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 tock.
So last week, was it you or was it Eric that sentenced me to this?
Oh, that was my doing, friendo.
So Judge Strah here sentenced me to watch Sharkansas Women's Prison Massacre from 2016.
Tell us about it.
So Sharkansas Women's Prison Massacre is a 2016 film by B-movie demigod Jim Wynorski, director of Chopping Mall and the Munchies movies, among many others, including he was the writer-director of Deathstalker 2, which was terrible, but I loved it. He's a real very prolific in this world. So at its heart, this is the story of a prison break of sorts, I guess. The movie focuses on a group of women prisoners broken out by one of the group's lovers. It also focuses on the two corrections officers sent to guard them, and two cops trying to solve the mystery of some recent animal attacks along the Arkansas River, one of which is none other than Tracy Lords, former porn star and also actress in like John Waters films and stuff. So one of the corrections officers is eaten by the shark, and the women are taken to a house where they're taken prisoner. It's here where I realize that there is no prison whatsoever in this women's prison massacre film.
Even though it's called Sharkansas Prison Massacre, there's no prison?
There is no prison, no. It starts off with them being, the women being moved to like a work site to remove some stumps in a prison van. And then they're broken out in the prison van. And so we never get to see the prison at any point. So two geologists arrive and theorize that nearby fracking has created a monstrous land shark called the Sharkasaurus. One of the girls discovers a secret stash of guns, and they go to kill the shark outside, which they now find is 6 ground sharks. 6 of them.
Tell me, what is a ground shark?
It's a shark that moves through the ground instead of water.
Obviously, I'm so stupid.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Come on, seriously, get with it here, brother. So they make their way to the protection of a cave and find a way out and away from the sharks. Or do they? This movie is so dumb, and I've never been so shocked at something not being softcore pornography. The acting is atrocious and actually fairly faithful to a very horrendous script. The movie, once again, had literally no prison in it the entire time. Even at 85 minutes, the movie felt overlong. One soup.
Oh, wow. Were there any good shark deaths?
There were some kind of funny shark deaths, and the CGI wasn't terrible. You know what? I'm gonna say 1.5 soups. I'm gonna give it a little bump up there. There were like at least a couple moments where I was like, all right, like there was a lot of like gun deaths and stuff, which was dumb, but those were.
That's not what the people watch that movie to see.
No, I wanted like a women's prison, and when I see women's prison anywhere in a movie title, I expect at least one shower scene. Zero shower scenes.
One prison.
Yeah, Sharkansas Women's Prison Massacre. That's also not a great name for a film. It has too much in it, and it's a false title.
Does it ever explain what Sharkansas means? Or is it Sharkansas?
They're in Arkansas, and so like Sharkansas. I don't know. It was just like a clever word that like the person who made this film thought of and like sold a script to like a B movie company on. I don't know.
That sucks. Now, was this like, I could not tell from the title and the cover, was this like Sharknado coded?
Sharknado coded.
Like of the so bad it's funny and we're telling you it's funny genre rather than this is actually like a fun B movie.
It was done by Jim Wynorski, so he definitely like knows how to make it like just bad because he's not competent. Perhaps.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's got a little bit of the self-awareness, but I think like everything feels like it does these days. I don't know. It was all right. It wasn't nearly as good as like any of his 80s stuff for sure. As I've seen quite a few of this guy's films. Even though he's got like 100 films, I've seen maybe a half dozen of them. This is probably the worst one I've seen that he's done.
All right. Any concluding comments?
No, definitely don't check out Sharkansas Women's Prison Massacre. Don't have such a poorly planned prison break, obviously. That's something we learned here today. Don't let your prisons fall apart. Maintain your prisons. Don't kill corrections officers when you're doing your prison break. You can knock them out. Although that, try not to give him like a concussion. I like the knocking him out with his tie thing. Like, cause
he strangled him with a tie until he was unconscious. Yeah. But
just unconscious. I mean,
Sure.
Yeah, that's better than, knocking him on the head and giving him like a severe concussion or something. There's just better ways to do things. Like try to do your prison break as ethically as possible, I think is what we learned here today.
That's one thing I will say in slight defense of the Mecklenburg Six is it was 6 people who had committed some extraordinarily violent acts, and they managed to go through with a prison break without actually harming anybody fatally in the process.
That's pretty great.
Right? That's pretty good of them. Mm-hmm. As far as the slight credit can go.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, I kind of like that breakdown that you gave though. It reminded me of those. You know how Jerry Springer would do that breakdown at the end of every episode? What did he call it?
The thought of the day or something, I think. Yeah, that's exactly.
Thought of the day, final thought.
That's exactly what I was doing. Yeah, the final thought. There you go. Yeah, I was totally doing a Jerry Springer.
We bring that back into the podcast. I like that.
Yeah. What did we learn here today? I'm always like taking little notes and stuff so I can sum stuff up if you want. We could do a final thought. That'd be fun.
Yeah, and that way listeners can just skip to the end and get the important...
The TDLR of the podcast.
Yes, exactly. That's what the listeners want. They don't give a shit about us talking about sharks and prison breaks.
No, absolutely not.
All right. Once again, we thank Roger Williams University School of Justice Studies. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your...
producership.
Thank you for your producer role in funding this here podcast.
Yeah.
And thank you, producer Brit, for joining me today on another action-packed episode of Prison Breakdown. If you enjoyed the show, please like, please rate, please subscribe. And until next time.
Lights out, 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 lights out.